So we're going to look at accessing the healing power. So there's a lizard in the bath again. If anyone wants to know about the lizard, put a message in the chat. I'm sure Mary will reply to you. All a bit obscure, really, but a bit of fun. What are your options for getting hold of FME? That is the question I'm going to answer. And I'm going to discuss a couple of variations. And the first one is the one that the majority of people, to be fair, are used to. So that's perpetual licensing. FME Desktop and FME Server are available under these license models, where basically you buy it and you pay for the software and the technical support and maintenance from ourselves in that first year. So you get a bit of a peak of expenditure in the first year, and then subsequent years you pay for maintenance and support. So it's a reduced cost in those subsequent years. Individual licenses, you can buy them at any point you like, and we can co-term them into your licenses. There are subscriptions, and you'll see that FME Cloud just got dropped into the mix there on the right hand side. Subscription licensing is a different way of buying FME. It's got a lower initial acquisition cost, so in that very first year we're sort of smoothing the spike off a little bit. So you pay a fixed amount each year, every year. It's a 12-month contract. Can make procurement simpler because it's just a one-off request. And the key thing is that you can size your requirement for that year to take into account maybe changes in your capacity needs. So you don't have to keep raising new purchase orders for additional licenses because you can adjust that capacity within that tiered threshold that you have. We can provide you much more specific detail around your requirements if you're interested in looking at what the options are for you around subscription. You can move, if you are on a perpetual, you can consider subscription licensing. It can be a different approach. As I say, it's an annual agreement. And it gives you sort of a tiered capacity of licenses. There's also something called an ELA or an enterprise license agreement. They're customized agreements, and you effectively have bundled training and consultancy services. It tends to be a single contract. It is going to be a minimum of a 3-year term, and you can have ELAs with all of the products included as well. And then there's pay as you go. This is where I wanted to sort of focus my attention a little bit. Some of you may have started to drift off, so I'm going to bring the techies back in the room rather than talking all commercial stuff. The pay-as-you-go side of things is basically where you pay for just what you use. You're effectively paying for units of time. We've always been able to do that in recent years with FME Cloud. We're a premier managed service provider for FME Cloud, so we can effectively provide you with a hosted FME server, do your upgrades for you and look after it and monitor it for you. But those of you with a very keen eye will have noticed that actually FME server was on that list, and that gives us quite an exciting option that we can start looking at. So there's a bit of an Easter egg on that slide, but what we're going to have a look at now is this concept of dynamic engines. Now, there has been a little bit of press, and actually there was a blog article that was released just yesterday on Safe Site to give you a bit more detail. But basically, around the summer, we're going to be able to commercially offer something called dynamic engines. And that means that you're going to have the ability to buy CPU hours of engine time, and you will only pay for the time that the engine is doing something. So this is a concept of something that is called dynamic engines. You have standard engines and dynamic engines. Standard engines are the ones that you will buy in either a perpetual or a subscription agreement, and then you can buy some credit, and it will be a fixed amount of credit that you can buy that gets applied to your FME server, and then you can add onto that FME server as many dynamic engines as your hardware can cope with, and maybe you want to cap it. It depends on your particular setup, and then effectively you can draw down that credit through a scenario of effectively burst licensing. So it's very likely that you're going to have a minimum number of standard engines We sort of think we know where that's going to be, threshold is going to be set, but we can talk to you about that separately. If you want an early preview of this, we can help you with that as well. But it does mean that effectively you're going to be able to change the number of engines that you've got on your FME server at any point to be able to scale this usage. So it is all very new, and it's commercially not available right now, but we're really close to be able to do that. As I say, we can provide an early preview from a technical perspective. It is the sort of scenarios you're looking at here are dealing with infrequent or heavy lifting tasks. So the classic one that we're all probably familiar with is loading Ordnance survey data, for example. You may, as an organization, just want to do that quarterly. It's a large data lift of national or regional data, multiple products potentially, and you might want to, rather than having to have certain systems that have a bit of a downtime period or a switch off period whilst you port data over, or close off certain parts of your processing, or tie up a machine is the other challenge. This means that you could throw 20 engines instead of the 2 that you've normally got access to at this job and draw it down 20 times faster than you are normally able to do. You draw down a little bit of credit, and then those engines go back to sleep and wait until the next time that they're needed. You might have a server app that has busy periods, weekends. You want these burst licenses to pick up the weekend data processing tasks for you and get through them, before the weekend is over, whereas perhaps at the moment the data is processing through to Monday or Tuesday in some scenarios, so that can be a bit of an issue. You might have sensors or streaming processes that stream data at variable rates, or anything else that's a bit bursty, where you've got these high peaks of demand in your system where you need to do some large processing. This is what it looks like. You effectively have an interface there where it says that dynamic engines are not enabled, and there's a bit of documentation you can go to, but you can see that there's another screen grab on a machine that's got 10 standard engines, but it's also got dynamic engines enabled, which appears to be capped at 39 engines on this machine. And you've got 3,500 hours of pay-as-you-go credits that you can draw down. So, I mean, we're really excited about this because it opens up some really interesting opportunities for organizations to not have to buy such large implementations of standard FME server engines, but you can have these this pay-as-you-go credit to chew through these pieces of work that you've got to do. And yeah, I mean, the lizard says that's not all. It isn't. The other thing that personally I'm really excited about, and a couple of my colleagues have been digging into as well recently, is cloud marketplaces. Now, I alluded to this right at the top of the session today, looking at other ways that you can deploy FME, and the Google Cloud Marketplace and the Azure Marketplace are two locations where this is available right now. I'm going to dive over to a browser, which I'm going to try and drag onto the screen. There we go. That's what I wanted. There's the Explore the Marketplace option. So if I dive into the Google Marketplace, I suppose I could have Googled it, couldn't I? But anyway, there is the solution section. I'm going to search for FME. There's the FME platform. Why is this interesting? Well, you can launch a machine that's got FME desktop and server pre-installed on it. Hardware is ready to go. You've got an indication of how much it's going to cost you. And these work with a concept of BYOL. A bit small, zoom in, you can see that down there. Bring your own license, basically. So the bit of text I've just highlighted. So you buy the infrastructure and rent that machine, and effectively you can put your license to FME desktop or server directly on it. So the platform's ready to go, and away you go with the hardware. Here's the Azure Marketplace. Exactly the same concept. If you're more of a Microsoft kind of person, then you'll be able to come in and search the marketplace over here. Here you can see that I've got the same sort of concept dive in and access the search. Got a browser challenge here. Come on, Mr. Browser. There we go. So we'll do a search. There's the FME platform, and you can see that there's a bit of detail about what you can do. There's a bit of pricing in there. Again, it's a BYOL, bring your own license, and away you go. You get the infrastructure, you get the license. Now, this sort of prompts the question, well, does that mean I can have sort of a pay-as-you-go approach for FME Desktop? Well, the answer is not yet. This does pave the way for hourly pricing, and we might see that soon. But I guess the thing to say is watch this space really.